Hi everyone, I promised to do a follow-up review of my reaction on 40 years of men's goth style, as I've discovered some new information. I would have done this sooner, and I apologise for not doing it sooner, but I've been pretty busy the last couple of weeks. Had Cybermorph, which is the cyber industrial event that I run, and that went really well. We had the biggest crowd we've ever had, so that's awesome. And the last week I've been feeling a bit under the weather, plus working around schedules with the kids. So it's Monday morning, kids are at school, my partner's asleep, I'm recording now. As this video goes, I'll be splicing in some photos at appropriate points along the way, probably with some sort of sound effect to make it more interesting than just having it to silence. They might be silly, they might be serious, I don't know yet. I'm going to go point by point with the different styles that were used in the video. To start with, there was punk, and to be honest, pretty stock standard, seen it all before. Should it be here? If you're going to include punk, why not include everything else leading up to goth? Why not include glam? Hell, where are the hippies? Where's someone that looks like Jim Morrison? Where is rockabilly? Gothabilly is at least kind of a goth thing, and so many goths listen to the Cramps. So where's that? If you're going to include punk, why not include all of that? If you're going to draw a line, draw the line at goth or not the stuff that came before. New romantic. Generally speaking, I would say when you mention new romantic to someone, they are thinking more along the lines of David Bowie, very much Adam Ant, possibly Boy George, things like that. But no, we don't get anything like that. No, we get a cross between Susie and Frankenfurter as new romantic, and no, that doesn't work for me. Tradgoth. Ugh. That name still doesn't sit right with me. Tradgoth, as describing a style, is kind of bullshit, as it has more to do with musical tastes. And that's if you should even be using the word at all. Seriously, it's just as bad as retroactively calling early goth music Batcave, when we've had the term goth rock for a long time, and it suits it anyway. We really need subcategories of goth rock. I think no. That bandana still doesn't sit right with me. It's more something that you would associate with hair metal, and back in the day, metalheads used to beat goths up. Do we really need that sort of reminder? I know times change, but back in that time period when this trad goth thing was supposed to be happening, that was what the sort of thing that used to go on. And this is actually a really good time to bring up a particularly important piece of information that I found. According to a few people that come from the Toronto, which I'm assuming is where Lisa comes from, the lady who made the video, all these styles are relevant there and they match up well. So under that context, they actually work. But the problem is, the video doesn't say that it's for Toronto. It's generally assumed, as it's on the web and being broadcast to everyone and everyone across the world could see it, that it's a worldwide approach, which, by the looks of it, it clearly isn't. Out of the Toronto context, it feels a little bit wrong, but I guess that means we can also apply that Toronto context to the first video too. But the problem here with doing that is it effectively makes you bulletproof from criticism, as long as all the people from Toronto are agreeing with you. And so far, at various places on the internet, I've seen people from Toronto, they generally are. I can't turn around and say, no, that's not right, if you're doing it on your own local scene, and I've never been there. I can see that defense being used by Lisa in the future. In fact, I'm kind of surprised it wasn't used for the first one, because if it were me, I'd be using that defense myself, saying, hey, you know, this is just my local scene, this is what I have seen here. You can't deny that. You can't fight it. The vampire. The vampire. Lol. I am so not a fan of vampires, so I'll admit I was being a bit biased on this one. Seeing this tired cliche being trotted out again. Also, the red contacts, you know, for 1990, they would have been so rare, and if anyone, I can't recall anyone wearing contacts, even in the late 90s, or the mid to late 90s at least. Maybe, you know, around 2000, that's when you started to see them. If she was going for Lestat, I don't think the jacket and the boots work. She's going for that Queen of the Damned one, but the Queen of the Damned version sucked anyway. Industrial. Well, to be honest, it looks more like a fetish look to me. But fetish did have an influence on goth fashion, so it should probably be there in some form. But to have it listed as industrial, well, industrial shouldn't really be there at all. Maybe if it were 40 years of dark alternative styles, but of course, you've got to use the goth buzzword because it gets more clicks. Speaking of that, how many reaction videos on YouTube need to be called Goth Reacts to 40 Years of Men's Goth Style? It's like you people are trying to form a hive mind or something. Then again, they are getting views and, well, I'm not. But I'm also relatively new to this, even though my channel's rather old and I've been making all sorts of weird content over the years. Really fairly new for me to be doing videos face to face like this. I'm more of a music guy, or just making silly random stuff. Generally my attitude is, hey, can I find it on the internet? No, I can't. Well, I'll create it. So I tend to be a bit random doing other things too. And most people keep their channels focused like a laser. And I don't want to do that. And speaking of YouTuber things, I'm not going to beg people for likes and subscribes at the end of my videos. If you guys like what I do, you're going to do it yourself. You know, I'm not going to tell you how to think. But back to industrial. That headbanging, just awkward and weird. No one dances like that to industrial music. No? You dance like that at a bloody metal club or something. And they would, if you asked them to play industrial at a metal club, they'd laugh at you. Cybergoth. As a cybergoth look, it's pretty spot on. As for it being relevant to goth, not so much. Personally, I don't think it should be there. Cyber is kind of a marriage between industrial and rave, and neither really have anything to do with goth. Industrial's been its own thing, and it's even been around longer than goth. The trip pants part of it, though, could have been used as part of a more goth outfit, which would have some relevance because at least it's kind of a gateway that a lot of people used into the subculture. Instead of more goth, we got emo. Emo has absolutely no business being here. I don't care how sad Vocaloid, as it was portrayed, may have links via the anime and geek community. Emo is not a gateway to goth. Emo kids do not become goth kids. If anything, they move on to the metal scene. And then the metalheads complain about them. It's like, oh, they want to listen to crap music. I've been to a show to support a friend of mine where the music that was played, it was meant to be a metal gig, but I would have called it more emo music. And the people there were, oh, it might have been hardcore punk maybe, I don't know. It just, yeah, not my scene. But I couldn't see anyone like that sort of getting into goth anyway. Then there's Sorry Not Sorry. Fuck you. You know this shouldn't be here. And you put it here anyway. And then you make your cheeky little hashtag, Sorry Not Sorry. Controversy for clicks. Blatant controversy for clicks. How do I know? I do the same thing myself. Edwardian. Oh boy, this is where things are going to get really interesting. This is where I did a lot of research and found out a lot of interesting stuff. Okay, this look, when I saw it, felt wrong, but I couldn't quite put my finger on why and articulate it on the spur of the moment, because this was a true reaction video I did without having watched it before, having done no research or anything like that. Whatever happened. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it, so before doing this I've done some research to sort of work out what it was that I saw that I couldn't really wrap my head around at the time. Okay, let's start with some actual examples of historic Edwardian fashion. But I knew that I had seen that sort of look before. Then it hit me. Anime, Death Note, Ryuk, see for yourself.
Desu!
But wait, there's more. I looked into Visual Kei. They are heavily inspired by fashion like this. Here are some examples.
Oh my god! Notice me, senpai!
So, it's not goth. Well, not goth per se, but it might be seen around the goth subculture. I also have a buddy who dresses steampunk, who explained one of his outfits as being Edwardian, but it's devoid of the usual brass bits and cogs steampunks feel they need to add to make it steampunk. Yeah, it's still steampunk because it's of the right era. You don't always need that stuff, apparently. I don't really know, I'm not a steampunk. So I don't have to glue some cogs on it and call it steampunk. This Edwardian style they present seems to have a lot more ties with anime and geek culture than goth. A bit like how pastel goth and new goth in the previous video often feel like they have anime and geek inspired interpretations of goth as well. Are you beginning to notice a pattern here? How these things have come up fairly recently in the last few years, and geek culture has taken off, and we're seeing a little bit more diversity through the youth that are being brought up on this stuff. It's not a bad thing, but it does show that how in the past we used to get horror geeks coming in thinking they're goth. Now we're getting anime fans coming in thinking they're goth because they're into the darker anime stuff or the Victorian styled anime stuff. I mean, that's not saying it's bad, but they're coming in with the wrong idea. And we also had people coming in with the wrong idea that were Manson fans, so it happens all the time. It's same shit, different year. Death Rock Revival. I still think the makeup looks like Combi Christ. I don't think the boots match the outfit either. But my real bugbear is the bit with the lead and collar at the end. I get why she did it. It's supposed to be a fun way to end it. A little bit cheeky. Yeah, okay, fine. But the problem is it perpetuates a negative stereotype that we've been fighting in the goth culture for years. Outsiders are going to see this video, and they're going to see that bit at the end and assume you can just walk up to anyone wearing a collar and they'll be kinky and easy for you. Because they're already doing that. It's to a lot of the web media and porn and suicide girls and models and all sorts of stuff. How we portray ourselves in this manner is terrible, and it creates the wrong idea. And to make matters even worse, they just released a new 50 Shades movie. Or it's been released soon, I don't know. And people wonder why people approach them in the clubs, or normies approach them in the clubs and treat them like sex objects. It's because we're portraying ourselves that way. Now, one thing I noticed last time, well, when I did my reaction, was that it felt shorter than the previous one, where this video was longer than the other one, but there were less looks featured, which kind of probably what made it shorter. They seemed to spend a little bit more time on each one. Yeah, that's just a little bit of a thing. My bad on that. But overall, has my opinion changed? Not a lot. A couple of styles are right, they're spot on, but the ones I think are right and spot on are generally ones I don't think should even be in the video. The other ones are a bit of a mess, often placed in the wrong time periods. Maybe I was a tad harsh overall, but I was giving a true first reaction, where I've noticed a lot of the other reaction videos tend to be more reviews, or they're a lot more subdued, where I'm sort of really frantic and getting emotional about it, and they're sort of sitting back and being completely emotionless point of view. So my guess is that's just that sort of people. And I probably subconsciously amped it up a little bit. I didn't feel I did at the time, but it could be that due to stuff like this, when I'm recording things like with the podcasts and the videos, that I'm naturally getting a little more outraged than I should be. I mean, I don't know if I'm coming across as outraged here. I'm not really. I'm pretty calm, but overall, do I think it was worse than the original one? On further review, I would say they're about the same. I wouldn't say it's better, but I wouldn't say it's worse. They're about the same. You didn't really learn much in between except to appease a few people along the way. But as an educational tool, I mean, for an entertainment tool, they're okay, but as an educational tool, there are much better resources out there. Speaking of which, my prize from Goth Position 2. My prize for defending Marilyn Manson as an influential icon on Goth, mind you. Which I totally did not expect to win. I did it as a fun argument to promote some controversy. As I've said, controversy gets clicks. And this isn't the first time I've trolled something and won a prize from it. At Cybermorph 2 weeks ago, the set I played was basically a Troll-Dustrial set. I'll put the Mixcloud link to it in the description. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Everyone